of someone else who's an incredible critic, but he's never been translated into English, at least any of his books, is a Japanese critic named Shigehiko Hasumi. And he's somebody who takes what's so fascinating about him is I actually read one book by him about Ozu in French. And my French is not great, but I went to the trouble of even using a dictionary to read it. And it's a short book. And the incredible thing about his book on Ozu is it takes the reverse position of everything that's said in the West about Ozu. Like Ozu, you read Donald Ritchie, and Donald Ritchie says Ozu is the most Japanese of Japanese directors. Yeah. And Hasumi says he's the least Japanese of Japanese filmmakers. Why? Because the weather in all of his films is the weather of Southern California, not the weather of Japan. It's raining all the time in Japan. And Ozu spent much of his life watching American films. He loved American films. He was like, his favorite movie was Citizen Kane, actually. Hmm. And when he saw Fantasia, he said, that's why we lost the war. He would say things like this. So, and he's interesting in all sorts of other ways too. I mean, even in cultural differences, like there's a film of his called Late Spring, in which Americans who write about it talk about this climactic shot, which is sort of like a great, see it as a orange, Zen moment, when they see a vase.
When he's peeling the orange right at the end.
No, this is not about peeling an orange. This is about a father and his daughter sleeping, and then
but like
lingers on
a movie. There's that really sad shot where he's like peeling the orange. He knows his daughter's going to marry the guy that looks like Gary Cooper.
Well, maybe, but what I'm talking about is a different shot, which is of a vase or a vase. And he said when Japanese spectators look at this shot, they don't see a vase. They see a window, they see a plant, they see a vase too, but it's like they don't see it just as that, So it's like everything is kind of perceived differently through, because of the cultural differences. And I think that's really kind of interesting too. So it's like, and he also Hasumi is somebody who sees things in American cinema that nobody else sees. For example, he has a piece about John Ford, which is one of the most interesting pieces that anybody's ever written about John Ford. And it's all about people throwing things in John Ford films. And he goes through the whole career. I mean, the very last shot of the last John Ford film is Anne Bancroft, after drinking, like a pill that'll kill her, throwing the glass down. And, it's like, and he goes through Ford films talking about, and it's not capricious. He actually shows you what they have to do with the meaning of the films, And with Hawks, he talks about people being turned upside down, like one of the things that he's sort of like fascinated with in Hawks comedies. So he sees things that other people don't see. And he's interesting because he was a person who was important enough to be the president. For 3 years, he was the president of Tokyo University. And many of his students have become famous directors. Kiyoshi Kurosawa is one of his students. A guy named Ayama, who is other. There's several of his former students who become important directors too. So he's somebody, and I think as I say, we're at a great disadvantage because nobody's bothered to translate him into English, and he's done lots and lots of books, not only about film, he's also a literary critic. And he's almost completely, because you can find one chapter of his Ozu book in a book about Tokyo Story, which is called Clear Skies, which is also about the weather, the whole question of the weather and all of this.